Porch light caught you through the screen. Summer dusk and citronella smoke. The kind of scene that edits out its flaws. A half-told story leaning toward the dark. Fireflies stitching gold across the yard. Every missing piece improving the design. The night left room for anything to fit. Every silent.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is my interview with Jason Davidson, the creative force behind Audio Iterations.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to have on the Dick Buttons interviews a gentleman I met through the AI Music Society and this whole crazy AI music scene that we're all part of. The creative force behind Audio Iterations, Jason Davidson. How you doing?
I'm awesome, Dick. Good to be here.
So the first question I always ask everybody from our community, how did you get started in the AI music?
So I got started because of my kids. I've got a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they came to me one day and said, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up. And so I said, I don't know what that means, so let me see if I can figure it out. And that just kind of led me down a rabbit hole. They wanted to make a song. They've got a YouTube channel, and they wanted to make a song. And I saw something on Facebook one day, just an advertisement for Suno. And so we first started making kid songs about Minecraft and Roblox. And after I started playing with it, I was like, man, this is actually fun. You know, the first maybe, I don't know, 20 attempts were pretty elementary. You know, they were good for, you know, at the time, 6 and 7-year-olds. And then one night I just started playing with it and started messing with the settings and came out with some songs that I enjoyed. And I said, well, this has kind of piqued my interest. Let's do more of this. And so, yeah.
That's pretty interesting though. So no incentive on your own is because of your kids. They turned you on to it.
Yeah.
Like you had no thought process to go seek that out. It was all because of the kids.
All because of the kids. Yeah.
Man, those damn kids, man.
I know. And it's been an awesome kind of happenstance. I'm super thankful that they led me down this rabbit hole. And, you know, we still work on a lot of videos for their channel, and it's, you know, they've kind of graduated away from the songs. And now they want to do gaming videos and other stuff. So,
okay.
But you know, started with the music, and then shortly after, you know, I started talking with people in, I think it was AI Fight Club at first, and then AI Music Society, and started making friends. And Fresh Friday came along, and just wanted to do more of this. It was exciting. I enjoy the creative process more than I thought that I would. And so it's a really awesome, fun hobby.
Yeah, no, it is. And again, I started before we started recording, being part of this community, meeting all the personalities, and there are personalities in our little clique. There's no avoiding that. But it has been a godsend for me on a creative level and just out of fulfillment. I don't know. You must get a lot of fulfillment out of it. Now that the kids are out of it, they're on their own thing. You have to be enjoying this, no?
100%. No, it's a lot of guys in their free time, they like to play video games, right? I like to play video games when I was younger, and I'll admit I've tried to play video games as a 45-year-old, and that's a young man's game.
Yeah.
You know, I get on there and I try to play Madden, or I try to play, you know, Call of Duty. I try to play with my kids, and I can't keep up. I don't know if my eyes aren't as good anymore, my coordination's not as good anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
But I get online and I try to have that, you know, that cathartic release, and it doesn't happen because I'm so bad. I ended up getting frustrated with these 9-year-olds that are kicking my butt. And so, you know, this is kind of like my video games in a way. You know, it's a way for me to learn something new. You know, it's you know, obviously starting with Suno and the music side, and then that turned into video work and kind of the production that goes into all of that. And I know, you know, the workload and the back end that goes into making just a 3 or 4 minute video. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work. A lot of people in the comments and come into our groups and they talk about how AI is slop and it's all lazy work. And if they really understood what actually goes into making a 3 minute video, they would realize it's far from it. I think slop is more on the input side than the output side,
Hmm.
right? I think what you put into it, and I've made projects that looking back on it 2 months later, I'm like, oh, that's a little sloppy. Like it's almost cringy to watch some of my earlier stuff, but it's all a learning experience. It's all
Yeah.
it's kind of taught me along the way what not to do or what to do, and so it's a ton of fun.
Do you feel that the video part of it, I sort of went through a phase with this, that the video part of it slows down the creative process on the song, or at least releasing the song, and you tend to care more about the video end of it than you do the audio? Because, without a video, and in the beginning, I had put out visualizers. We all did lyric videos.
Mhm.
That's all there was when we started. But I feel now the pressure is on with the video. That's where I am.
Big time, big time. And I think there's some external pressure, trying to keep up with Mellow and keep up
Oh,
with
there's no, you
you
can't.
and keep up. No, you try, you do your best,
Mello's on
keeping up
another
with
level though.
him. I know. Well, I mean, we've got a lot of guys and ladies in the space that have leveled up tremendously just over the last 6 months. I think if we went back and looked at all of our work 6 months
Oh,
ago, we've all kind of leveled up together, which is so fun. It's really neat to kind of look at. And I think that pressure and internalized pressure, and I say it in a good sense. I don't think it's bad pressure, but I think, having friends that are next to you that are doing the same kind of work, we're all kind of pushing each other to be a little bit better. You talk with Detour and it's like, oh man, have you seen their latest video? It's
yeah.
unreal. Like I've got to step my game up, So it's I think that's good for the creative flow. I think it makes us try to do better. And I think, for me personally, I even if I didn't have that external force, I've always been kind of a perfectionist with anything that I do. It's when I want to learn how to bake bread, I've got to know how to make the best bread I can make, so
Right,
I'll
right,
dive
right.
into it. I'm making bread every night and gaining 30 pounds so that I can make good quality bread. But it's about the process more than it is the end goal.
Yeah, and I agree with you about the each of us pushing each other, but what I also enjoy, each of us have our own flair on what we do,
Yeah.
right? Like, like I'm not going to give examples, but each creator has their own little slice of the pie, and I think they excel at that, and I think that's what makes it special.
Me too. And what's interesting, like I mean, you said it perfectly. I think that I can close my eyes now and listen to a Fresh Friday, and I can point out now there's some new faces, and it takes a while to kind of learn some of them. But the guys that have been doing it for 6 months, like I can hear an Alice Tanner track
Yeah.
from a mile away. I can hear a Dick Buttons, or I can hear a Phoenix track, or Detour, Tasha Clark obviously is one that you can, tell within the first few seconds of a song. It's like name that tune kind of.
Mhm.
But I think that what's neat is we also have some creatives in the space like Matt at Main Records, which has 4 different lanes that he's trying to navigate all simultaneously. And it's a little ambitious for me, and I tend to kind of enjoy that aspect too, where I don't necessarily have a persona. I don't have a style that I've stuck with. I like to go wherever the creative juices are flowing. And a lot of times I'll tell you, part of my creative workflow is a lot of times I start with the lyrics. A lot of people say that, but it's true. I'll start with just poetry, and I'll use the notes app on my phone, and I'll just usually start with an idea. And a lot
Mhm.
of times it's not even my idea. Like I'll hear someone say something at the grocery store, or I'll be scrolling and I'll see something that just touches me, or I find profound in that moment. And so I'll just make a note, and I think, you could make something out of that. And so I've got this long note of just brain dumps
Hmm.
of unique ideas, unique phrasing, an interesting way to look at things. And so when I'm feeling creative, a lot of times I'll just go to that note and I'll just kind of go through and see if something sticks, see if something's kind of resonating with me at the moment. And then I just start ideating on that and just start, bouncing it around in my head. And I'll, start with one line and then go to
Yeah.
two and go to three. And then, so a lot of times, I'm starting without a particular song style in mind. I've made folk songs, I've made hip hop songs, I've made rock songs, I've made songs that are in the style of some of the music that I've enjoyed growing up, and then stuff that I've heard other creators do that I really enjoy.
Hmm.
So the last song I made was actually kind of inspired by Rich, one of our fellow resident guys. He's got a new folk album. He shared some of the tracks with me and just blew me away. I love the style, and so I started playing with some of that styling and
Hmm.
seeing what I could come up with. And if it wasn't for Rich sharing his work with me, I might have never come up with that myself. So
Right.
I think that's, you find that a lot in art. I'm not an artist, and I'm not a musician. I'm not a songwriter. I don't consider myself any of those things. I think I'm a person that enjoys all of those things. And I think that's the neat part of the times that we live in and the tools that we have is now someone with no formal training, no background, no, like, this is funny. I can go to a concert with a song that I know by heart, and the audience will be clapping on beat, and I'm the one person within 5 seconds I'm off beat. Right? I have no musical talent whatsoever. But it's neat because these tools have allowed us to play with music. Matt, the AI DIY, says music's for everyone. That's his tagline. And I love that tagline because music is for everyone. And removing those barriers to entry is a beautiful thing. At least it's
Yeah.
been for me. Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah. And my creative process is basically the same as yours. It's the thought or the genesis of a song. Like just like you. I am always typing something in my notes on my phone. Oh, I
Hmm.
like that idea. I see that. I want to, and then I just percolate, and then it becomes lyrics, and then the longer part for me is the video, like you said. I mean that,
Oh, yeah. Big time.
and I think I'm a little upset that that slowed down my I don't want to say speed, but output, but also the podcast has
Hmm.
taken up a lot of my time too,
Sure.
and running AI Music Society, which when Dom gave that to me, I didn't, not that I didn't think it was going to be a lot of work, but I underestimated just how much work that was going to be. What do you
You got
enjoy more?
you
Do you
you
enjoy the lyrics end of it or the video end of it?
it's
Or the
it's kind of shifted over the last year. Obviously in the beginning, I was pretty hardcore adamant about I wanted the music to stand on its own. I had a couple guys come to me, Tim and JP and even Matt, and say, "Hey, YouTube's a visual format. You're gonna get more attention." And that's not something I was after, but they said, "Hey, you should really consider it. It's fun." And my first few things that I put on YouTube were just static images. I think Fresh Friday #1 was a static image.
yeah,
And but I was so inspired by that first week, seeing what these other creators had done, that you know, Friday night after Fresh Friday was over, I'm researching like what models can I do within my budget and try to figure this out. And I swear I had a video for week 2. It took me, I'm probably, 30 hours because I'm learning everything from scratch. I had never
right.
prompted an image before. I'd never prompted a video before. And I was using Grok at the time. So fairly limited on what you can and can't do. Um, And at the time, I was using my phone for everything.
Oh my God.
And so I didn't know this, but if you generate at the time, and I don't know if this has changed since, but at the time, if you generated a video with Grok on your phone, it came out 9:16 vertical. And so
Oh.
I couldn't figure out for the life of me how to make a horizontal video. So my first video, week 2 of Fresh Friday, was a vertical video in a horizontal landscape. And so that was the first feedback I got was, hey, good job, but you got to figure this out. That's not going to work. So
That's funny. I
yeah.
can't imagine doing a video on my phone. Even though, I mean, I have a folder, I have a Google Pixel Fold. Even opening it up, I couldn't imagine doing that.
Yeah, I was doing this all from, in my spare time. So I'm doing it on my lunch break at work. I was doing it after the kids went to bed. I was doing it as I was laying in bed. And it was just at the time, there's an app with Grok. So it was all still a learning experience, right? I
Yeah.
was, all the prompts were just, straight out of my mind, like, man wearing a black suit, and it's super primitive. But hey, man, learned a lot. I learned what not to do.
Hmm.
I learned that spending 30 hours on a video is a little extreme. So I had to, but I was kind of hooked. I got the hook set in me, and I wanted to do more. And so week 3 again was another portrait. No, week 3, I finally broke out the laptop and started making them. Week 3, the feedback I got from Phoenix was, and this was at the time, Fresh Friday gave you 15-minute slots. And so I
Yeah.
thought, well, hey, I've got a captive audience, and nobody likes sitting in the chat in between songs. And, a lot of songs average 3 to 4, sometimes 5 minutes long. I was like, let me stretch it. Let me see what I can do. So I made a 9.5-minute song, and a little ambitious because a 9.5-minute video
That's
is extreme. Even today, it's extreme. And Phoenix, I'm listening to his stream after, and he's like, "Oh, it's garbage, mate. You can't do this. You can't make people sit for 9 minutes through a song." I'm like, "Okay, noted." So, but it's all fun. I think that all of the failures along the way, I think each one gets a little bit better. Sometimes they're step backwards, but I've gotten it to the point now to where I've built out kind of the workflow, and I use AI to help with the workflow. And I've graduated to Higgsfield, which gives you access to a plethora of the best models in the world, from image to video. And
right.
so, I'm able to get a 5-minute video in, and maybe 5-6 hours I can do one. Which
How expensive is Higgsfield?
So I purchased a 2-year plan.
Oh,
Back around at Christmas time, they were running a special, and the special was you got the maximum creator plan for it was $900, but
ooh,
it spread over 2 years. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is a fun hobby. Can I stick with this for 2 years? Will the newness wear off? Will the kids move on to something else and I just won't have the time? Will the job change? A lot of things going on in my head, but I was like, when I did the math, it was $37 a month.
yeah. Okay.
It allows me to do, if I'm using Kling, I can do 4 to 5 decent music videos. If I'm doing Seedance, it's 2.5 to 3, depending on the length or how many regens I have to do. So that's a video a week. That's
Right.
pretty good. Now, if you were to go buy that same plan without that Christmas special, I think that same plan is around $200 a month, which is a little
Wow.
steep for what I'm doing. I wouldn't I wouldn't commit to that. So maybe that's a little trick during the holidays. Look for a special.
Yeah.
You got to jump on it, because at that point you can afford to play around. You can afford to make some mistakes. When Seedance first came out, I spent an entire month's worth of credits, $40, just on testing prompts, just to see what would happen if I tried this, because I knew the limits of Kling. Kling is really great at a lot of things, but physics, fighting, dialogue, those weren't its strong suits. And those were the things that I think everybody was kind of waiting on. And so when Sea Dance came out, I was really excited. So I was like, I got to test all these prompts I've been sitting on or
Right.
that I've tried and have failed over the last 6 months. And so yeah, that first month, I didn't produce anything that was releasable. It was all just testing and having fun. And but again, learned a lot, came out of
Yeah.
it with some experience, and the next month I was ready to roll.
The best dialogue I've seen so far, the thing that Bunny put,
Yeah.
the show thing, like the episode. So,
Mhm.
the two things that Bunny and I did together, the Buttons and Bunny detective thing, the noir, and then the 70s thing. I did the first sequences with the dialogue, and I'm a Google guy, so I use VO and Flow, which
Mhm.
they've gotten exponentially better since I worked on those projects. But not I don't know what Bunny's using, but whatever he's using. Um,
We were talking on the Discord server. We had a meeting last week after Super Saturday. I'm talking to Bunny, so I
yeah,
could hear Bunny's voice, and I still referred to Bunny as a she. It's like it's ingrained. I can't get rid of it.
Jason, no lie, we're working for 2 weeks together on the first Bunny Buttons thing, and for the first 2 weeks, I thought I was working with a woman.
Yeah, right.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
Well, and
it's
it's funny too if you think about it. There's a lot of that in our community. I just interviewed Jason M.
mhm.
Ash Johansson. There's another one. And I got to hear the genesis of that persona. That was fun. So I wonder what that is. A bunch of middle-aged men with female personas.
I don't know. I mean, what's funny is I saw a stat. So my kids are obviously into video games. My oldest loves Fortnite. And I don't know if you know anything about the game Fortnite, but the way
I've
that
played
they monetize that game is you don't buy the game. It's a free game, but the way they make
skins.
money is they sell the skins.
Yeah.
All the skins my kid wants are girl skins. And I'm like, what's up with that? And he's like, I don't know. That's what all my friends have too. And but it's the same thing. Like you get online and you see, most of the guys are wearing girl skins and most of the girls wearing
Uh,
guy skins. I don't know. Maybe it's 2026 and we're all just pretending. Who knows? But I'm all for it. I think that it's a lot of people use this as a creative outlet, as a cathartic release, as a way to kind of escape the world that they live in. And maybe just that's a further extension of
right.
separating yourself from your true reality. Maybe it allows you to have a voice that you feel like you couldn't have if it was a male persona. I don't know.
Uh,
Um,
that's deep. I get that. Yeah. Yeah. I understand where you're coming from with that.
I know for me, I've had a few people ask, like who my persona is. Originally when I joined up with the guys at Resonant, great group of people, by the way. But they're like, what's your
Yeah.
persona? And I'm like, I don't have one. Let's use this little frog guy. And they're
Yeah.
like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, for me personally, I don't take, and this is within the audio iterations, AI music space world, but also just in my real life, I don't take myself serious at all.
Oh,
I
you
never really
can't.
have. I'd rather just have fun with things. And the more I try to take myself seriously, the less fun I have. And that's at work, that's in relationships, that's with my kids. And so this is just an extension of that too. So I wanted that to kind of be an extension of that. Like I don't take myself seriously. You shouldn't take me seriously either. And then I've kind of graduated from that character to now I've got Shedlarsky, which is my big 300-pound guy that wears a Whitney Houston cutoff shirt. Just trying to be different. I look at a lot
Right.
of people's personas in the space and they're gorgeous, right? Like Bunny's
Right.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
I've seen Larry. Or excuse me. I've seen Bunny in real life. Bunny's pretty. Actually, you're just as good looking as Dick Button. So I gotta say, you're the only one that's relatively close. But you look at most AI personas and they're buff. They're really chiseled jawlines. They're good looking. I was like, I want someone who's fat and sloppy and has a ketchup stain on his shirt. You know,
Yeah.
that's my guy. You know,
I borrowed that persona from one of the Ames thread videos this week. I
yeah.
don't know if you saw that.
I did. I did.
Okay.
I love it. I think it's awesome. I think it's another extension of, man, I'm not taking this too seriously. Let's just have fun. And hey,
Yeah, you
sometimes I
can't.
show up and I've got a ketchup stain on my shirt.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
But what
Yeah.
I do find interesting, there are a few in our group, not our group, but in this AI space that take themselves way too seriously.
Sure.
Right? We're both part of Resonance, so you've seen my rants on a certain somebody who like comes at me. I mean, it makes no sense, dude. It's just music, it's a character, and I understand brand, I do. I understand that.
Yeah.
But I just think some people take themselves too seriously.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, I don't know if it's as much a hot take anymore, because I think more people are kind of coming on board with the idea of like, when a lot of people jumped into this space, I think there was a lot of interesting expectations that people held that, if they just got their song in front of the right person, or if they just made just the right video and made just the right connection, they're going to be on a TV show, or they're going to be, on the radio, or they're going to be able to quit their day job. And I'm not one to poo on anyone's parade or to say, you're kind of, wishful thinking. And I want that for whoever wants that for themselves. What I'm always cautious about, and it's really more just caution, because what I see is people have really high hopes. And then when they're laser focused on that being the end zone that they're running towards, and you're running on a treadmill and you're not really making progress, and you're putting in the hours, you're putting in the money. Like, you asked about the cost of this stuff. This isn't a cheap hobby.
No.
And that's not taking into account our time. Our time's the most valuable thing out of all of this. And we're spending hours and weeks, and I can't tell you how much time I've spent just researching prompts.
Yeah.
Just watching other friends' videos, watching your podcast, and it's something that I enjoy, but it's an investment in time, also money. And so I think that's a real concern for a lot of people, that they're going to eventually run into a burnout phase where, you don't feel like you're making the progress you should. You don't feel like you're getting the recognition that you should. Your channel's not growing at the rate you assumed it would. The likes are going down. The algorithm doesn't like me. And I've seen a lot of friends kind of go through the peaks and valley of super motivated and doing some really creative work. And then a month later, they're like, I just don't know if I can keep doing this. And so, for me, I'm going to be taking kind of the rest of the summer off. I'm going to, spend my kids are off school for the summer. You can probably hear them in the background there. I told them to keep it down, guys. Yeah.
Both of mine are out of the house, man. I missed that time of when they were kids.
For sure. And there will be plenty of time when they're not here and asking me to go play hoops with them.
Right.
Right now, they want me to play Spider-Man and play basketball with them in summertime. We're going to do a lot of that. So
I get it, man.
I told them, the guys, like, hey, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm going to, step back for a couple months so I can, one, focus on the real priorities in life, but two, come back completely
recharge, man.
Yeah. And it's not like the idea stopped coming. So I've noticed where I have this internal goal that I put on myself, and I know a lot of other people in this space do the same, where they feel like they have to come up with a new video every week. They have to have a new release for Fresh Friday or Saturday or Sunday. I mean, there's a stream every night of the week.
I know.
There's this. And there's a lot of people that and I understand it completely. I felt this way too, that if you slow down, you're going to get passed up. Not by fellow creators, but by the technology.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine, like, if I stopped opening up Higgsfield for 2 months, I'm going to come back and Seedance 2.5 is going to be out. there's going to be a new cling model, there's going to be a new image model, and I'm going to have to kind of retool my entire workflow. And so I get why people stay on the grind, but for me, I'm gonna, use this next couple of months, obviously, to refocus on the kids. And then as the creative ideas come, just start adding back to my notepad.
Yeah.
And then, when the fall comes, they're back in school. I've got a whole list of things that I can start to tackle and not feel like I have to be forced to be creative, because that's when the creative juices just disappear for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's anybody else, but when I sit down and I don't have an idea for a song, but I'm like, I got to come up with something, it's almost always trash.
Mm-hmm.
It never comes out very good, or it's looking back, it's not really ever anything that I'm proud of.
Right.
I've got a lot of that stuff on my channel.
Oh, you can never take anything down. I mean, it's part of your history. It's part of your growth. It's all part of the story. So I don't take, if I was going to be critical, I would take half the shit that I have up on my channel off from the early days, because
Sure.
it's just not something I'm very proud of at this moment. And Phoenix once said to me, back to the grind and everything, the minute it becomes a grind, or you have pressure, or then it's not fun anymore. And then you should stop doing it, because this all was because we wanted to have fun, and it meant something to us. But if it becomes a pressure and panic, it's just, there's nothing worth it.
100%. I mean, the Phoenix is those are extremely wise words, for sure.
Coming from a guy who uses the C word as much as he does, yes. But
but I think that's true not just in what we're doing with this. I think that's true
Everything.
with everything in life. I've been lucky enough, blessed enough to be able to have some really incredible work that I've been able to do to make a living over my life. And at one point, I was getting paid to sponsor music festivals. And this was when I was in my 20s. I was single. So I spent an entire summer, in an RV, traveling around to music festivals, going backstage.
that sounds fun.
And it was amazing. But at the end of that summer, I wanted nothing to do with
Right.
live music. I didn't turn on my headphones for, I think, a good solid 6 months after. No matter what you do or what you love, if you do enough of it, eventually you're going to want to do something else. And
Right.
I don't think that's unique to me. I think, there's a saying that, if you ate filet every night, eventually you're going to want a cheeseburger.
Yep.
And I think that's true. So, yeah,
that leads me, like, that's why I'm a maniac, but I have so many personas. But that's where the personas were born for me, because, okay, I did Fallen Angel, and yeah, it's okay, it's great. But if I just did Fallen Angel every time, which you pointed out in your diss track that you did.
I had to. Sorry, Dick.
No, listen.
Fruit. It was low hanging fruit.
No, listen. Again, I don't take myself too seriously, but the only reason I was taken back because I took the high road and didn't do one, right? I was being nice, and I was like, okay, oh, this motherfucker, man, okay. But anyway, that's where all the other personas came from. So I could do a different type of music. I could do a female. And then I came up with the idea of, what if they all worked at the same record label? And I'm a maniac when I come up with that. But
no, and I think that's fine. I mean, Silly Little Me I think that's a neat way to segue into that and not get pigeonholed into one. You don't have to abandon Dick. You don't have to abandon Jack. You don't have to abandon, what is it, Queen Tings. You can stack them, right? And they all kind of work together. And whatever mood you're in, you can kind of fall into that lane. Or if you're not feeling any of them and you want to come up with something new, hey, we just signed a new artist. I think that's insanely fun to me. I think that's an extension of that creativity that I enjoy. I know I couldn't get locked into one style or genre or image. I'd get bored with it too.
Where do you stand on the positive affirmation? Is that something that, not that you need it, but occasionally, can you just put out stuff and not get any reaction? Would that bother you, or?
Not really. I'm kind of like the, put it out and not really check it a whole lot. And I do try to, because I do see that people come and leave nice comments and you want to acknowledge them. So, but sometimes I'll go a week without doing that. And I almost feel bad because they've
Right.
taken the time to watch my entire video and actually take the time to leave a comment, and I can't even respond back to them. So I do make it a point to try to go do that just as a point of courtesy more than anything else. But not really, I do think so. And this is kind of a topic that has been batted around a little bit in the space, especially recently, where I think someone coined the term, or at least brought the term of toxic positivity
Yeah.
within the space. And
That was Wraith, I believe.
yeah, and I can understand that sentiment for sure. But I also know that most of the people that are in this space that I've gotten to know on a personal level aren't doing this necessarily to be, the best in the world at AI music or AI
Right.
video production. A lot of people are doing this as a form of therapy. They're doing this as a form of cathartic release. They're doing this as a way to escape the depression or the anxiety or the nagging wife or the job that's never
Yeah.
ending. This is kind of an escape mechanism. And who am I to judge the quality of their output when that's their main focus? Now, I do think that there is something to be said for people that genuinely want to grow as artists, creators, whatever you want to call people in this space. That constructive criticism is healthy and positive, but
Yeah.
I don't know that going to every video and being like, your editing is shit, mate, or I don't know that the negative comments, unless they're soliciting them,
Right.
is something that I want to be a part of. I'd rather say, man, you killed it. Even if it's not the best thing I've seen all day, I'm proud of you for stepping out of your box. I'm proud of you for
Right.
getting out today and putting one foot in front of the other. And because a lot of people are struggling. I know I've gone through this in my life, not currently, thankfully, but times in life where I didn't want to get out of bed. There were times in life I didn't want to put one foot in front of the other. Or I thought that, life was so smothering, whether it was job, relationships. There's a million things that can feel smothering: the death of a parent, loss of a friend. And so there's a lot of times there are more reasons to not be productive than there are to be productive. And so to push yourself into a space where you're being productive when you don't want to be, I have nothing but praise for that. And I'm not necessarily judging the quality of your output. I'm judging the quality of your effort at that point.
Yeah, and what I tried to do when I had the time before the podcast started picking up and moving in a good direction, I was on Ames every morning, every
Yeah.
thread, every track, and I wasn't gushing every track. I was saying, "Hey, I like this. I didn't, the vocals weren't my favorite." But I made sure to comment on everybody's video.
Mhm.
I didn't care if I got comments on mine. I just thought, hey, these people are putting effort. These people are putting stuff out there for us to listen to or watch. I just thought the affirmation that they're doing something good or worthy, I thought was important to do.
1,000%. Yeah, that's where my mind is too. So when I hear that term, toxic positivity, I can't really align with it. While I can understand that sentiment, and I think in a closed group, if everybody's on the same page of like, hey, we're all going to try to be the absolute best we can, and let's all give constructive criticism, then I think that's a healthy place to criticize.
Right.
I think that when someone comes out with a video on Fresh Friday and they're kind of giving you a piece of themselves,
Yeah.
I think that deserves nothing but praise.
Yeah. And I sort of miss not sort of. I do miss Fresh Friday. But I have to stick to my guns and the decision I made after the whole fiasco with the collaboration with Tim and myself. Yeah, so I do miss it. I do Super Saturday Show if I need my fix on that. So, I mean, where do you stand on all that, the censorship and everything?
Yeah, it's so I'm so non-political in my personal life. But if I were, I would be a libertarian, right? You can do whatever you want to as long as you're not hurting someone else. I kind of follow that same logic when it comes to this, where I don't see the harm in, sexiness or jiggly tits or like, any of that stuff. I think that censorship is a slippery slope. And I think that, and we've seen that. I think that that was one of the things that I was trying to kind of raise the flag on when it first started to become an issue. This was even before you're in Tim's. This was this guy that happened, between Thanksgiving and Christmas was kind of when it all started. This Cyrus guy, and
Yeah.
watching that video, I wasn't even comfortable watching it, and I'm no prude. But like, if my mom was sitting next to me, I'd quickly turn it off, and I
Right.
can understand not wanting that on your platform. I understand that they're trying to curate a specific type of feel and environment, and they want everybody to feel included, and they're wanting to invite female creators, and I understand all of that. I think that my only argument was that, hey, number one, anytime that you're selectively you're anytime you're being selective with your judgment calls, it's a slippery slope, and it's I don't think that that helps creativity. And I
Right.
think that it's gone even beyond that, where not only were videos not allowed on the platform, but then there were comments made about the creators of those
Right.
videos. And that's
Right.
what crossed the line personally for me. It's like, I know Tim, I know you. I know that there's not a misogynist bone in either one of your bodies. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I don't think there's any straight guy, that doesn't like looking at sexy women,
Right.
right? But I also understand if you're trying to create a family-friendly environment, that's okay. That's the other part that I think kind of got to me a little bit, was that it was selective enforcement, and I think we've
Right.
seen that in excessive violence that we've seen in some of the videos, domestic violence that we've seen in the videos. Like, I saw a straight up beheading. I liked the video, right? But it was
Right.
a beheading. Like,
Now,
so
what
if
about
you're not gonna
last
allow
week? Someone, I don't watch, but someone told me there were puppets having sex last week on Fresh Friday.
simulated oral sex with felt puppets, and it's like, it would be from what, and again, I saw the video from the rumors, and I haven't talked to anybody who made the choice to allow it or not allow it, but I've heard from the rumor mill that it was a female creator, and that gives
Oh,
agency to, owning your sexuality, as opposed to a guy sexualizing a woman. I think that's just, we're splitting hairs, and we're choosing
right.
when to be outraged.
Which is
And
where,
so
so
that starts
yeah,
to get into the realm of hypocrisy for me, as
yes,
opposed to curation.
I agree. All right, well, we beat that enough. I don't want to harp on that. And
But I
do you
love,
remember
honestly, I miss Fresh Friday. I watch it still every Friday. I miss
see,
participating. I miss the people. I miss PJ. We talked all the time, and we haven't talked a lot lately. And I miss his friendship, to be honest. And
so
I know
PJ and
that,
we survived that. So
yeah,
it was never directed at him. And
yeah,
I know that it was other people who were involved in that. And PJ and he's done segments on my podcast. We're doing the whole movie review thing together. PJ's one of the most talented motherfuckers I've met in
yeah.
this space, and he's a great guy too.
Great guy. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with both of them. He's super talented. I mean, he was one of the first, I'd say, between, PJ, you, and Alice Tanner were the three that made me want to start doing this. So you guys were
Oh
my
man, thank you.
inspirations. and still are. And so I think not only is he super talented, super creative, like the stuff he comes up with is awesome. He's gotten so good at his videos, his
Yeah.
storytelling, with his new stories he's been doing is
Yeah.
so fun. A genuinely nice, just sweetheart of a person. So yeah, nothing but glowing things to say. I unfortunately, in the heat of when things were getting a little sour and I think emotions were heightened, I know personally I said a few things that I wish I could take back. And one day I hope that those bridges can be mended, because
I'm
that's not
sure
necessarily me. I was
if he
caught up in
reached out,
the emotion of
I'm
like,
sure if he reached out, he'd
yeah,
be yeah, he would
yeah,
accept that. He's not a bad dude at
not
all.
big guy. Yeah,
Yeah. Are you at all concerned about the technology advancing to the point where creativity takes a back seat?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's not just true. Not just true with what we're doing. I think that that's true with my day job, right? I look at what I do for work and I'm like, I know I can automate 80% of what I'm doing, and I've actually done that. And so I turned around and I started automating my boss's work for him too. So I'm trying to, take some of the stuff that I've learned about AI and the workflows and the models and agentic workflows and all that fun stuff, and try to, turn that into a productive way to, make me more valuable for the company I'm working for. But I look at where we are today versus where we are just 12 months ago, and
Oh
I
my God.
I wonder if not just the technology, within our space, but technology across the board is going to get dangerously close to outsourcing everything, and we're kind of in the way at that point.
Yeah, no. I mean, listen, I've used this example. Any one of my listeners is probably going to throw something at their screen or their radio right now when I say this, because I say it every time. When horse and buggy was the only mode of transportation, and then the car was invented, the horse and the guy who drove were out of a job. You can't fight technology. It's just the next evolution, and eventually, I'm sorry, I firmly believe that, and this is maybe a little bit conspiracy theory here for me, but I think at one point AI is going to look around and go, "We don't need these motherfuckers anymore."
Yeah, yeah,
I think eventually it's going to happen.
yeah,
Look at Marvel. Marvel laid off 3,000 animators a couple
yeah.
months ago, and that's all because it could all be done with computers now.
Sure. You know, I try to follow a lot of AI news, and being brought into it through this hobby of ours. And so there's a new model by Anthropic called Fable, and it's kind
Yes.
of a guardrailed version of Mythos, which is this ultra powerful model that apparently can like hack into the Department of Defense type capabilities. And a year ago, it couldn't write an email. It could, but it was so glaringly AI that it wasn't usable. And now it can hack in the Department of Defense, and the
Mhm.
Department of Defense can't do anything about it. So,
Right.
um, right now we're kind of in this weird little sweet spot. It's almost like that interesting time when you're not awake and you're not asleep. You're like
Mhm.
halfway in between, and
Yeah.
it's not going to last for very long, I'm afraid. I think
Yeah.
we're enjoying the fruits of it right now. I think that it's fun to play with Cdance. It's fun to play with the new image models. It's fun to use this as a tool. The rumors are, Cdance 2.5 is going to be released in the next coming weeks, and it can do 30-second videos with up
Yeah.
to 50 inputs, including video, audio, and images. So, I mean, at that point, I don't know what limitations there are other than
Right.
being able to, craft a good prompt. But truthfully, I don't know anybody in this space, and you might, so correct me if I'm wrong, almost everybody uses one large language model or another to help craft our prompts. We're just a half a step away from the prompts creating themselves.
Yeah, and I've noticed something. I'm a Google guy, so I use VO and Flow. Though those are my go-tos. I at this point, if I uploaded a picture of a guy holding a hatchet,
Mhm.
and all I have to type is animate this photo, it
Yeah.
knows that you're supposed to swing and chop stuff with the. I mean, so the need for a detailed prompt is unless you want to get extremely specific. But to your point, when C Dance 2.5 comes out, you may not need that.
Right. And, one thing, I started to mention this when I was mentioning like the Fable and Mythos models from Claude, is that those models have been available to Anthropic for the last 6 months.
Right.
So there's a lot of talk, and when you start listening to the AI pundits, that we're never going to really have access to what they're calling frontier models. So the most capable models, they're always going to kind of keep to themselves,
Right.
until they come up with the next frontier model, and then they'll slowly release it. If we have access to something like Fable or Mythos, which we have access again today, as of today, what do they have access to?
Right.
And when you hear interviews and podcasts with Dario or Elon or Sam Altman, like they're building bunkers. And they have $1 trillion companies. The other scary part is, they're the first companies in the history of modern economics that money with $1 trillion valuations, and they're actively laying off people.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that bodes well for any of the rest of us, that they've come out and said 80% of Fable was written by Opus, which is the previous model.
Right. So listen, I don't know how deep you go into the tech of it all, but you've heard of quantum computers, right?
Sure.
That's the next step. So,
Yeah.
and it doesn't act like the AI now, where AI, it goes out, gets it, brings it back, reviews it, goes back. Quantum is all at once, everywhere.
Yeah.
Once that, listen, I don't think it bodes well for us.
I don't
honestly.
know if it does either, but so I think the best thing we can do is just kind of enjoy it while we're in that little golden era of we have the tools right now. We're having fun with them. There's going to be a lot of people dumping on AI and calling it slop, and let them. They're bitter people anyway. They're the kind of guys that yell, "Get off my lawn!"
Right. Yeah.
And so, but this golden era it'll either go away or
Well,
the world will go away.
yeah, you can't put it back in the bag. I don't think. I think at this point.
Yeah.
And I saw a podcast with the guy Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking to this older gentleman. I don't think his name was Altman, but he was old, and he's one of the forefront guys in AI.
Mm-hmm.
And he said we're fucked in so many words because AI is already rationalizing with itself. With the information that we give it, it's rationalizing. And he says once that happens, being sentient is not that far away.
Sure.
So, I'm 60, so I'm almost on the back nine, maybe. So I think my kids are screwed.
I worry. If I were a worrier, and I'm not, generally, there's nothing. If you can't do anything about it, right? There's one lesson I've learned, and this was something my grandfather shared with me when I was little, and I've just held on to it tight my entire life, and nothing's been truer for me, is that anything that you worry about is always worse than the actual thing that you're worrying about, no matter what it is.
Right.
A couple years ago, right before I got into this, had a massive heart attack at 42. Had to have open heart surgery, and had a near-death experience. It was kind of a wild time, and a lot of kind of existential type thoughts that, up until that point, I thought I was young and indestructible, and, the world could never get me. And I was relatively healthy. it was a genetic thing. It wasn't
Oh,
really
okay.
I could have done to prevent. So, it's just kind of every day since then I've considered a gift. And
Yeah. Well,
so, if it ends tomorrow, I got an extra couple of years out of it, but I do, if I were a worrier, it would definitely be for the kids, like
yeah.
being 7 and 8, they've got 10 more years in school and they're teaching them basic math. And I'm like,
Why?
I've got Alexas throughout my house. So I remember, and you probably remember this too, when you had a question about something, you asked your parents, and they're like, I don't know, like
Right.
look in the dictionary, ask Aunt Etna, or whatever. Or you just went through life not knowing the answer to the question.
I had
My kids don't
encyclopedias.
even, like my kids don't even know what that
Right.
looks like, because any question that they have, no matter how esoteric or off the wall it may be, Alexa has an answer for it.
Right.
And so, what value is there in learning basic arithmetic? They don't teach handwriting anymore. Is it important to learn basic multiplication?
I don't, is it? I don't know. I mean, I did an experiment. My son is 27, my daughter's 25. And we were at a family function and they have nieces and nephews around the same age. I asked them to write a paragraph in handwriting.
Yeah.
They couldn't do it.
Yeah,
Couldn't do it.
100%. That school supplies. It's pen number 2 pencils, right? What's a number 2 pencil? That's the pencil you got to have, Dick. Not a number 3, not a number 1,
Right.
number 2. Now they all have school issued Chromebooks.
Yeah.
My kids know how to type. I didn't learn that till I was in high school, and they're over there typing away. Handwriting's kind of foregone. They do everything. They don't do homework on paper anymore. I don't know if that's different in other places, but at least where we're at in California, everything is electronically.
Yeah,
But
no, it's the same here.
It's kind of neat in a way because, the teachers have back-end access, so they can see where kids are struggling, where they're, it's taking them a little bit longer on there. So there's a lot of pros to this. And I think that I'm hopeful that as a society, as humanity, that we'll adapt. We've always adapted. And, every time we think the sky's falling, all the guys that rode horses in the turn of the century, they figured out how to drive cars pretty quick.
Right.
And so I think the same is going to be true. I just hope that the cars need us to drive them now,
Well, we already have driverless cars. So.
I don't know where the jobs are going to be.
Well, that's what they should be teaching in school, is how to work with AI, or how to create, or, somehow with AI, or how about how to balance a budget? Right.
Which they've never really taught. And I think
no, I'm saying I would have
loved
loved that in high school, to how to balance a budget. Because when you get married and you all of a sudden, all the shit that your parents did for you, it's like, wait a minute, no one ever taught me this.
Or investments, or compounding interest on the good and the bad side, right?
Yeah.
No one taught you that, when you have a balance that carries over in a credit card. Like, I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
That interest compounds. But likewise, when you invest money, it compounds. Like, those are things that should be taught, and really aren't, while they're still teaching, Civil War history, like that's relevant. I'm not saying it's not, but I'd like to see, schools focus more on, science, technology, math, STEM stuff.
I'm with you. Yeah. All right, I'm going to wrap up on this, Jason. Where do you see yourself in 2 to 5 years in the AI realm? I mean, do you think you're going to still have all the creative juices and you're still going to want to do it, or do you think it'll fade off into the sunset?
I hope so. I really do. It's hard to prognosticate. I've always been someone. I've learned one thing as about myself, is that I have to have a hobby. I have to have something to keep myself busy. Whether it was gardening, I got real big into gardening for a while. I love organic gardening. I got into bread making, pizza making.
Oh, cool.
Was going to open a bakery at one point, making artisanal bread. And, now I'm really into this. There's so much to learn, and it's such a dynamic and like landscape that changes so rapidly that it's always exciting and new, right?
Yeah.
So like even like when the new model drops, I get excited and I want to go play with it and test some prompts out, and so I don't see that slowing down at all. So from that perspective, I think that there's enough positive change to keep at least me engaged. I love music. I love watching videos. If I weren't doing this, I would be consuming media.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fun to be able to kind of make it. And so I think if the models stayed the way they were and didn't progress like they are, that eventually I might get a little, bored with it or want to move on to something else, or, maybe go back and focus on just helping my kids with their YouTube channel. But the way things change as rapidly as they do, I don't see that boredom kind of setting in at any time.
That's good. All right.
Hopefully.
I want to thank you again for sitting and taking time out of your busy day. If I do another AI roundtable after your break, we'll wait till the summer's over. Would you want to be involved in that?
I'd love to. Yeah, anytime.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going anywhere during the summer. I'm just not actively creating, because that does it takes a lot of time and effort to do it.
I'm with you.
And more than anybody, because I think out of really, there's only a small handful of people that have been as prolific as you and PJ and Detour. Like, man, it's like every week there's something exciting and new coming out. Now you got the podcast and Ames. I don't know how you do it, to be honest.
Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I ask myself.
Yeah.
But thanks again, man. And listen, when you get back,
Yes, sir.
how about we do a collab?
Would love to. Yes, sir.
Not a diss track, a
No,
collab.
no, not at all.
All right, thanks a lot, man. I'll talk to you later.
Take care, Dick.
Looks great. The porch light caught you through the screen. Summer dusk and citronella smoke. The kind of scene that edits out its flaws. A half-told story leaning toward the dark. Fireflies stitching gold across the yard. Every missing piece improving the design. The night left room for anything to fit. Every silence widened into possibility. Every guess arriving dressed as certainty. No crack beneath the paint, no thread beneath the gold. You were gold in the morning air, soft on linen, sun in your hair. Almost enough to believe. Come closer, stay unknown. Come nearer, don't be shown. You were blue where the daylight bends, sweet as a world before it ends. Almost enough to receive. Grows smaller under time. Locked rooms, learning how to let in air. Old mysteries, collecting ordinary dust. A face becomes familiar to the eye. A song settles deeper into its chords. Wonder trading distance for detail. The gears appear beneath the painted sky. The fingerprints emerge beneath the gloss. Every miracle developing a history. No form remains miraculous once true. No one survives the perfected view. You were gold in the morning air, salt on linen, sun in your hair. Almost enough world before it ends. Almost enough to receive salt and sunlight, laughter from another room, the outline before the edges hardened, the shimmer before the source appeared, the glow before the bowl. No beloved failed, not one. The fault line lived inside the looking, not the looked at. Every romance, another attempt to make a horizon out of a person. Every goodbye, the sketch beneath the painting. Every beginning, mistaken for arrival. The cost of transformation was never pain, it was asking the finite to behave like the infinite.
Let me go.
Soft on linen, sun in your hair. Almost enough to believe. Almost enough is the word. Stay unknown, come nearer, don't be shown. Stay impossible, stay unknown. You are blue where the daylight bends, sweet as a world before it ends. Almost enough to receive. The beautiful grows smaller under time. Completion is the first form of goodbye.